Everyone, welcome to the panel on new models for education philanthropy. I'm Michael Horn, a senior strategist at Guild Education, and delighted by this conversation because I think we've got like the who's who of perspectives on the evolving face of education philanthropy and the opportunities and challenges that we'll get into. So just delighted for this conversation. We've got Tom, who leads Strata, Angela from New Profit, Ralph from ETS, and Katie from Siegel Family Endowment. And we're going to dive right in. I'm going to try to fade away as this goes on. But first, a quick lightning round just to level set everyone so that everyone knows who's out there. Just a quick 30 seconds on your fund, what you all do, mission and focus. Katie, if you want to start.
Sure. At Siegel Family Endowment, we're focused on the impact of technology on society, and we operationalize that across 3 verticals of learning, workforce, and infrastructure. So relevant to this panel, in learning, we're really focused on computational thinking, some edtech tools, and the future of learning, school design, what learning should look like if we're going to equip all students to be successful citizens.
Sure. So ETS Capital is a relatively new part of ETS, and we're focused on primarily investments, equity investments, but then also growth capital relationships and mergers and acquisitions. Our focus is really not only domestic US, but internationally. We started to do a couple of international deals, I think, last year, and you're going to probably see announcements of more international deals this year. It's really a focus on developing relationships that can really benefit not only ETS, but also benefit the companies that we engage and collaborate with. So it really is a focus on being truly synergistic and bringing the value of ETS's businesses to the forefront.
Angela Jackson. So at New Profit, we are a 22-year-old venture philanthropy firm and modeled off of a VC model. So we make equity investments with grants with unrestricted capital. We also invest in for-profit organizations. And our thesis is around a future of work, what we call an equitable future of work. So looking at accelerated learning programs that are focused on the 70 million US residents who don't have a 4-year degree, and also thinking about the wraparound supports like innovations in childcare, transportation, and fintech.
So Strata works to identify and then scale the most effective solutions that move beyond completion to connect education and work more purposefully. We do that through 4 main pillars. We have grants and investments, which are really kind of 2 sides of the same coin. We can talk about that later. We own and operate a series of affiliates that are in that space. And then we also have what we call stakeholder engagement, which is how we work with people like this here on the panel, institutions, employers, and policymakers as well.
So I'd love to get right into the conversation of the panel itself in terms of new models, and you all have views across the education philanthropy sector, and I'm just curious, what do you all see as the major trends that are evolving in these new models as you look out at the landscape? Angela, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, mentioned New Profit's been around for 22 years. We are focused on social entrepreneurs. A trend that we're seeing lately is that blurring of the line between 501c3s and for-profits, especially when you're looking in this kind of accelerated learning space. And so that's really pushed us to invest in entrepreneurs who are really working at that intersection of profit and purpose. The other thing that we're seeing in the field right now is more collaboration, and we're really excited about this. When we look at our investments, we're also looking at co-investors that we're bringing on that are also mission aligned with us, because we know the checks that we write, $1 million, the lowest is $250. That doesn't make a company, that we're going to need more collaboration and more aligned investors.
So
So if I could jump in there, I think a lot of the points that Angela made, I totally agree with. I think that what I've heard that's consistent around the panel is this concept of investments, and I think we're all doing investments at some level. So we don't do grants at all. So we're not at that level. I think we tend to impact more with the venture philanthropy model. So we're making financial investments. Also, I think our group tends to focus more on later deals. And so that means that our typical numbers are maybe something on the order of $2 million to $20 million in terms of investments. And so I think for us, we really definitely need to find partners who are willing to work at that earlier stage, can really provide deal flow for us at that slightly larger stage. So I think that level of connectivity, I think, is key.
I think one of the things that I've noticed, having worked in this space for a while, I used to have hair when I first started, is that foundations, I used to work for a big foundation, and grants were really the coin of the realm. And I remember, this wasn't that long ago, this was 10 or 11 years ago, and I remember when we started doing our first program-related investments, it was, oh my goodness, this is so revolutionary and so innovative, and there were so few foundations that did them. And then I stepped away for a while, I worked for a for-profit education company, and I came back, and those types of investments that foundations were doing have become all the rage. So it actually changed fairly quickly. I think with Strata, the part that we really focus on is how can we bring to bear those 4 levers I described, but in particular with the affiliates that we own and operate. There are, we can control and operate them, and we can learn from them more directly. And so I think that's a differentiator for us. We don't have them to, they're all nonprofit for the most part. We don't have them to earn massive margins. We have them really to learn from and to scale and to share what we're learning with the field. And that's a bit of a differentiator for Strata, but I think all of the combinations, all of what my peers up here are talking about is we face a very, kind of irrespective of whether you're in early childhood or if you're in education and career, the problems that those areas face are very complicated, and they're entrenched, and they've gone on for generations, and you can't rely on one form of allocation of capital to solve the problems. You need really a multifaceted approach to it. So,
just building on that, Tom, one thing that we've seen, Strata has taken that internal approach by having those different levers. When we think about our investing, we're taking a systems approach and really looking at the ecosystem. So while we make direct investments, we're also investing in policy work. New Profit as a policy arm, America Forward, because we know it's great to make one investment, but how do we really see systems change if we're talking about reaching 70 million people? And so we've surrounded strategic partners that include policy, research that we want to disseminate, and like I mentioned, other VCs who want to come to the table to hold the line on the mission investments.
Picking up on that, I think what we see as a foundation that's doing slightly more traditional work at the intersection of all these things is that we need to make these connections, that we need to pull together the tool builders and the teachers and administrators, school leaders. We need to have conversation and community that leads to collaboration. The other thing that I would just add in terms of trends, and one that I'm really excited about, is that the growing access to tech tools has made it possible for proximate leaders who are closer to the communities they serve, who come from those communities, to actually be a part of the tool building process, to have a say in what the future of these tools look like, and to really be part of the design and leadership of programs that serve students across the country.
So you all laid out a bunch of different tools and mechanisms and ways you're investing.